What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk to you about Opendoor. I want to go over some of the current data points, what shorts have been doing, and what big money's been doing. So all of which very interesting stuff. So I want to go over all of that, but first make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So at the time of doing this video, it is pre-market. So depending on how things do play out, I can always do a PM video, but it is up 1.42%. So gaining some pretty good traction. We did have some good data that came out first thing. So mortgage applications came in at 0.2, mortgage market index came in at 317. So shows a little bit more of a growing demand. So that's always welcomed. So as a byproduct of that, Opendoor is kind of moving higher. Yesterday, I did a kind of morning video for Opendoor, and it was actually doing fairly well up until this came out. So this came out roughly around 10 a.m. and ever since that point, Opendoor was kind of just pushing a little bit lower. And so this does show home delistings rise as sellers wait out market. And this kind of coincides with 𝗪𝗧. So I really do respect 𝗪𝗧 because he's very proactive. I think almost 2 hours after this post, he did his own commentary on it, just saying, hey, we're going to have up weeks, we're going to have down weeks. Things happen. So in my opinion, I think he's honestly the perfect CEO for Opendoor to really succeed. And he does add a certain level of transparency that I do really like. But when it comes down to secondary market and also dark pool transactions from yesterday, there was a lot of abnormal ones. So for instance, you did see a $98.9 million transaction and numerous ones right here, 7.4, 7.4, 7.4, all of which was done after hours. And then on the dark pool, which is often enough used by shorts as well as hedge funds, you did see some pretty interesting transactions. So 23.5, 8.7, 8.6. These right here, anything like a whole number, it is fair to assume that a lot of those are linked to hedge funds. So all these $1 million transactions, that is hedge funds loading the boat. And of course, dark pool is a little bit more gray because it's supposed to be anonymous. But what you can do is kind of match this with what happened on the actual chart. And you can kind of see what is buys and what is sells. And this right here, that was done after hours, that was a hedge fund that was buying. So let me know your general thoughts on that in the comments below. So I wanted to kind of bring up this one data point. Clearly institutions are getting in. Maybe they feel more upside is coming. There really hasn't been that much in news from Opendoor. They did put out that last news on the 21st saying that they did the special dividend. And this is where, as you can kind of tell from my thumbnail, saying that the dividend worked. And so I think in general, you did have a little bit of a sell-off right before the ex-dividend date. And that's just because some institutions don't want the dividend because it's going to be taxed and various other things. To a typical retail investor, it's not that big of a deal. But in case you don't know, if you ever short a stock that does issue a dividend, you have to pay that out. And again, for those of you that have dived deep into a lot of the warrants, that works out to be a very high percentage dividend. Again, to a lot of retail investors, doesn't make that big of a difference. But if you are shorting millions upon millions of shares, that does matter. So there is 2 times per month when the actual exchange does disclose the true amount of shares being shorted. And that conveniently was issued yesterday. So as of November the 13th, there was 127.36 million, a reduction of 21.9% from the last disclosure. So that ultimately means from October the 30th to November the 13th. So in that time frame as well, there was that kind of big dividend announcement, there was their earnings. So in that time frame, shorts returned almost about 40 million shares more than what we previously thought. And this is why I always go through a lot of these transactions on the dark pool, because dark pool again is anonymous. It kind of flies under the radar. So this is where shorts were primarily hiding a lot of their transactions. So ultimately the dividend worked to get them off of their back. And for those of you again that follow my channel, I actually did bring one stock up, and that was this one right here. ticker YHC. It was YQR, I do believe they changed the ticker, but obviously the stock price isn't great whatsoever. Management really flopped, but nonetheless, the moral of this story is this stock was also very, very heavily shorted, and it actually did get them off their back. So way back in 2023, it was almost about 80% short interest of the free float, and it was just massively getting slammed. The company thought to do a dividend, no different than what CAS did, and that actually did get, from that point onwards, shorts off their back. So I think in general, this might be possibly the start of a kind of maybe exit for shorts. Again, if this kind of company's history repeats over to Opendoor. So let me know your general thoughts. Very interesting stuff. This is why, again, I like to go over and dive deep into a lot of the data behind the scenes. But nonetheless, with it right now at 786, it's looking like today's going to be a pretty hot day, trading between this R2 and this R1. So for those of you that want to kind of day trade, swing trade, dollar cost average, for instance, 777. So 777, lucky that is going to be that strong support and that key pivot, followed by 701. I don't see that 701 being hit most likely for this whole week. Today is going to be the last real trading day, in all fairness, because Thursday the market does close at 1 o'clock and it's historically very low volume, and then on Friday as well, very, very low volume. So today, just watch for that 777 to be the strong support, and then 824 to be that next strong target / resistance. So I just wanted to quickly pop on, go over some of the data, and which in my opinion is relatively bullish data. Aside from that though, like I said, if there is some big changes that do happen, then I'll do a PM video. Only thing that's coming out is going to be at 8:30, and that is actually, sorry, my apologies, it actually just came out 2 minutes ago. And so 216,000 for the initial jobless claims, 224 for the forecast. So very good stuff in reality. So that most likely is going to really push the broader market even higher, because that kind of does, again, kind of calm the broader market for the whole fear associated to labor. Of course, that doesn't really justify a good rate cut though, but I think given yesterday's kind of crappy data, still 25 basis point cut for the upcoming December meeting is still potentially on the table. So let me know your general thoughts on all that, and with all that, you guys have a good rest of the day.